Like many Supreme Court rulings recently, this decision came down to a 6-3 split. A majority of Supreme Court justices saying that Alabama can use its 2023 congressional map. This gives Republicans an opportunity to pick up an additional seat. People from both parties in this court case did allude to the fact that we could see this down the road at Alabama's Supreme Court, regardless of which way Judge Reed decides in this motion to dismiss. He did say the Republican voters should not be taking this race for granted, even though this is a seat that is currently held by a Republican. He still encouraged supporters both of him and of Jared Hudson to go out and vote in November. We obviously were aware of the weather that was going on here in the Montgomery metro area, but we started hearing the fire alarms going off, and all of a sudden they had a roll call vote. A Montgomery City Councilwoman appears to no longer be living in the district she represents. If you Google Alabama elections, the first link you'll see will bring you directly to the election schedule. So the information is out there, but a lot of Alabama voters didn't even know that there was a primary runoff election going on. So the question is it reaching national platforms or social media platforms that many Alabamians are getting their information from? Groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations said that your comments reflected a misunderstanding of Islam and interfaith relationships. What's your response to that, and do you stand by your comments made about this event? Those who are in favor of this code change say that it's necessary to protect Alabama's children, but those who are against it say that this is a step towards censorship. The big question here is going to be if former U.S. Senator Doug Jones is able to win tonight outright, or if he'll have to move on to a runoff election. There are going to be people that say you're not giving enough second chances. What is your message to people who believe that?
I believe in second chances.
So it's really one of the only things that they actually have to do. So there are two budgets that Alabama lawmakers have to pass before they can wrap up. You've got the general fund, which covers everything that the state spends in the year minus education, because there's a specific education fund. The New York Knicks are NBA champions. The team closing out the San Antonio Spurs 94-90 in 5 games to clinch their third title and their first since 1973. And how are you guys making sure that the voters who voted for the Democratic ticket are having their voices heard in the state legislature with the Republican supermajority in place? Is this really unprecedented for the U.S., or is there a history of tariffs used in this way? There was a lot of back and forth about what message this bill sends. Both Democrats and Republicans did agree on one thing, that having trust in elections is incredibly important. She covered a lot of different topics in a lot of different moods as well, reflecting not just on the past year, but the past 9 years serving as Alabama's governor. Those who study her activism say that it went far beyond December 1st, 1955 and the Montgomery bus boycott. If Governor Kay Ivey wasn't awake at 7:30 Monday morning, the group outside urging her to cancel the execution of 75-year-old Sonny Burton hoped their presence was an alarm clock.
If they believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and a life for a life, Mr. Burton did not take a life.
Burton did not pull the trigger inside of the Talladega AutoZone in 1991, shooting and killing Doug Battle during a robbery. Matt Schultz, Burton's attorney, says he was in the car when the shots rang out.
The shooter and Mr. Burton were both convicted of death, but the shooter was later resentenced to life without parole. Supporting clemency here would signal to the people of the state that our system of justice works.
Unlike the man who pulled the trigger, Burton's sentence was not reduced. That pushback could be heard in the streets of downtown Montgomery. Protesters marched from the governor's mansion. Governor Ivey, hear our plea!
Justice, mercy, clemency!
That march ended right here at Alabama's state capitol, and more specifically up those steps and down the hall to Governor Ivey's office, where supporters handed over petitions that they say have 67,000 signatures calling on Governor Ivey to spare Sonny Burton's life. Governor Ivey did not talk to protesters. She's only granted clemency once during her time as governor. But as the seconds tick by until Burton's scheduled execution,
this is a situation where the governor has that power to act as a fail-safe to ensure that something like this does not happen.
Schultz says there's still hope that Governor Ivey's mind could be changed before it's too late. Well, no decision as of yet. Montgomery County Circuit Court Judge Brooke Reed said that she'll have to take some time on this one, essentially deciding whether the courts have the jurisdiction to settle this residency challenge. Plaintiffs, of course, saying that they want this case to move forward, but members of Senator Tommy Tuberville's legal team saying that they want this case to be dismissed entirely.
Follow the Constitution of Alabama. Number 2, let the people decide. If they don't think Senator Tuberville meets the qualification, they'll decide that. And number 3, follow the rule of law.
Joe SB argued Senator Tommy Tuberville's case. In this hearing, the case is that the courts do not have jurisdiction over the challenge of Senator Tuberville's residency. 7 consecutive years of living in Alabama is required by the state's constitution for gubernatorial candidates. The plaintiffs argue Tuberville has not met that requirement. Tuberville's legal team argued Republican voters named him to the top of the ticket with 85% of the votes. They argue voters could decide if Tuberville is eligible in November's general election, and they also said the legislature could take action later on if it's determined that he is not eligible.
The people decide. The people have decided who sits in the legislature, correct? The people have decided who sits on the court. Used to be another way. You have to accept the people's voice.
The plaintiffs argued the court must make this decision. Barry Ragsdale, lawyer for the plaintiffs, said this case should not be dismissed.
We believe the courts and the judiciary are who should pass on whether or not the Constitution's been violated here. Again, as I said to the judge, we don't vote on whether people get constitutional rights.
The plaintiffs, who are 2 Alabama voters, say this is a constitutional issue and say it's a question of fact. Has Senator Tommy Tuberville lived in Alabama for 7 consecutive years? They say that's a court's decision to make.
What I wish would happen is that the Republican Party would do the honorable thing and they would replace him on the ballot with another nominee. If they did that, guess what? All of this goes away.
Judge Reese said that she hopes to have a decision in these next few days, saying time is of the essence with the general election so close. It's worth noting that people from both parties in this court case did allude to the fact that we could see this down the road at Alabama's Supreme Court, regardless of which way Judge Reed decides in this motion to dismiss. Well, Alabama has more than 1 million head of cattle and calves as of January 2024. That's according to the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. I talked with a cattle farmer here in the Montgomery area who says Alabamians can support the state by buying and consuming locally sourced products.
Can I help you today?
Matthew Pounds and his wife co-own Pounds Meat Wagon. The Matthews, Alabama-based farm raises and produces beef and beef tallow products for customers around the river region.
We have briskets. That's a 4-pound brisket.
Pounds says he wants Alabamians to shop local rather than see a shift to bringing in beef from other countries like Argentina.
My immediate reaction was we need to be America first and sustain producers and the American people and buy from the local producers before we go spend money outside the country.
While Pounds says beef prices at the grocery stores are on the rise, he says importing it rather than buying local could lead the average cattle farmer to needing to sell some of their cattle if they lose business.
You know, that's not a huge hit, but it's a slippery slope and a precedent that, you know, we would be better off to just buy local for our producers here.
Pounds says he wants lawmakers to consider the long-term drawbacks of bringing in cattle product rather than growing the domestic market that already has cattle farmers scattered throughout the country and throughout Alabama.
If you go buy local from your local farmer, you look him in the face and you know you're helping him.
Thank you so much.
And he looks you in the face and he knows that he's providing you with a product that you know and trust and can be proud to consume.
We haven't heard much from President Trump since those comments were made last week on how a shift to importing beef would look like in practice. Parts of western Alabama have recently been upgraded to being in an extreme drought, but every county in the state is facing abnormally dry conditions.
We'll just park right here in the edge of the hayfield.
Wendy Yeager is a 4th-generation farmer. She's planted her roots and 5 different crops at Bell Place Farm in Dallas County.
We as farmers are a dying breed, and we are expected to feed more people on less acres every year.
And that job has been even harder this year because Yeager is farming against a severe drought, leading into Alabama's driest month, October. Yeager's soybeans are paying the price.
To a farmer who is trying to make ends meet, this is not what we need. You still see a lot of gaps, and we don't want to see gaps in that stalk.
And while the farm's sprawling cotton fields may look full, a closer look tells a different story.
The untrained eye, you think, oh, there's plenty of cotton out here, but to me, as a producer, I need these plants full of cotton from the bottom to the top.
And the peanuts aren't doing much better.
We've only got one partial peanut that has developed on the inside, and obviously there's not anything here on the other side of this hole.
It's not all bad news for Yeager. Her property is big enough where some of her soybeans have actually gotten that much needed rain.
More rain would help us fill out these pods. You'd have a bigger bean because that's where your yield comes from.
But the problem is it's not enough. Yeager says she's getting less product to sell and profits are getting smaller by the year. While the rain here and there has not been enough to help her crops, Yeager says it's a temporary victory to help her get through this year's harvest.
One rain won't really save us from anything. It won't really make things better. It just helps our feelings a little bit.
In the past few years, some Alabama farmers have been eligible for economic relief for crops that they lost due to drought.